Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Iggy's Toy Parade and Soldier Review. Once again, this is your host, Iggy. And today we're going to talk about Fort Cheyenne, manned by Timpo 7th Cavalry and being attacked by Timpo Indians. Where should we begin? Well, let's take a quick look at the fort. This fort was introduced in the, pardon me, roughly the same time as Fort Apache. It came about 10 years after Fort Apache and was produced by the Superior Toy Company, which used to be the Cone, Cohn Toy Company. And they probably had Marks even make parts of this fort for them. That was not an uncommon practice during the 60s for one company to license another to make parts for them. If you look at the battlements on this fort, you'll see that they're identical to Mark's stockade pieces. They're virtually the same thing, even the same color. Where it differs drastically is in the corner blockhouses, which you see here. These are quite spacious. They have a cardboard floor, and it also has a lithographed tin building as its headquarters building. And as you can see, it's quite large. It almost looks like a two-story building when you look at the figures standing here on the roof. But that was a nice feature that they made it so you could put figures up there. And they've got somewhat of a lip going around the, I don't know if you can make that out, so that they don't fall off. Now, this fort I bought on eBay, and it was missing a lot of parts. For instance, the front gate that you see here was missing one of its gates. I have two of them now. And the blockhouses for the corner, they were missing their legs, and one of them was missing a support beam. So what I did is I bought some wooden dowels at Hobby Lobby, and I painted them and put them together like this, so that I guess you could say I helped restore the fort. They also did not have the floor. Well, one of them had a floor, the other one was missing. So I cut out some pieces of cardboard using the original as a template. It sits on a board that I had cut for me at Home Depot, and I covered the ground area here that you see with HO ballast that you use for HO train tracks. And I glued that to the board, and then I glued HO train grass. And then I got some rocks that I found in a neighbor's yard. By the way, rocks are very unusual in Florida. We just don't have rocks. We have a lot of sand. The Florida Peninsula, for most of its early life, was underneath the water. So not a whole lot of rocks here in Florida. No mountains or hills either. It's really flat. You could iron clothes on it if you wanted to. That's a Mark's tree stump, and I glued that to the board as well. And the reason I did that is in the early days, Mark's used to advertise its play sets using boards that they would paint grass and water and dirt roads and things. And then they would staple figures to the board, and they would hang it up on near the ceiling so that everyone could see the play sets. And not just Sears did that, but also other department stores as well, such as Montgomery Ward, May Company. May Company is a California department store. It was a very nice store. I worked there for a couple years, and then years later they went out of business. Each of their stores had a really nice restaurant, so employees could eat there, and also customers had a place to eat while they took a break from their shopping spree. Now, this Fort Cheyenne that you see here, I painted that this sort of tan color to make it pop. Before it was in the Adobe reddish brown color that the fort is, and I went ahead and decided to paint it so that it would stand out more. And you're not supposed to alter toys. It lessens their value, but I don't intend on selling this, so I decided to make it the way I like it to look, and I prefer it like that. I also painted some of the rocks. I don't know if you can see them over here, because, well, for instance, this one back here I painted because they weren't dark enough, and so I gave them a quick paint job, and I like the way that came out too. Now, defending the fort, we have Timpo troops. I've showed you quite a number of Timpo troops in previous videos. These are some more that I found in storage. And some of them might also be transagram. It's very easy to get transagram and Timpo mixed up, but usually Timpo will say Timpo. And even some of the transagrams that are made in Hong Kong will also say transagram, or have a T, or it will say made in Hong Kong. Now, I never had Timpo when I was a kid. I thought I did, but it turns out when I looked into it that they more than likely were transagram. Transagram 7th Cavalry figures, it looks like their toes on their boots is curled up. It's kind of strange. Like if you had one in front of you, you could see what I'm talking about. It's a very strange phenomenon, I guess. And also, their butts look like their front, which is also a strange feature. Now, Timpo, with their 7th Cavalry figures, released figures that were all in black slouch hats and also in forage caps or kepis, like this fella here. But it's easy to get confused because they also use this particular same figure for their Civil War sets. So you look, is this 7th Cavalry? Is this Civil War? What is this? And usually people get a 7th Cavalry figure with the forage cap and think it's Civil War, and sometimes vice versa. Now, these are all Plains Indians. I don't think I have any Apaches here. The Apaches are distinctive. You can tell right away that you're looking at an Apache instead of a Plains Indian, because they're wearing pants and they have a long, not so much a loincloth, but it's a long cloth that hangs down in front from the waist. I don't care for the ones with headdresses because it looks like, I was talking about this with my friend Carl. We were talking about stolen valor, guys who like to dress up in Marine uniforms, especially Marine uniforms. Carl was in the Marines, so he kind of takes offense at that, and I don't blame him. They call it stolen valor. And these Indians look like stolen valor because they have such exaggerated headdresses on. I prefer the ones that are very basic, such as this one holding the tomahawk. I don't know where these canoes came from. In fact, this one I painted. See, it used to be that color, and I painted it. I probably painted this one too. Over here, this is a Barzo Cabin from their Civil War series. And what gives it away as Civil War is it's got four shelter halves as a roof. I don't know if you can see that. Let me move my drink here. I got an orange soda. Ah, that's pretty good. I like orange soda and root beer. But it's made of plastic. It's all one piece. And I wish I had bought more of them, but I bought this at the West Coaster and never bought any more. I don't think it was that expensive. It was like $10, $12, something like that. And it had a very strange roof. It was like blue and black. A dark blue that had been dusted with black paint. And I didn't like it at all, so I painted it to make it look like the shelter half for which it's supposed to be. It shows shelter half has been patched up there. You can see where the soldiers patched it up. So it's a cozy winter barracks for them. It's got a fireplace on this side of it. And when basically the soldiers were homeless, so that's a nice shelter for a homeless guy. You know, I was talking to a homeless guy the other day. He said he'd been living in the woods for 7 years. And that's pretty tough. But he said that the toughest part was not the bugs and the animals, it was other humans messing with him. They would come during the night and want to sit next to his fire, or they would steal his food, they'd take his bicycle, they would physically attack him. It's pretty scary life for those people, very frightening. Now, a couple of these were damaged. As you can see here, one lost his head, and the other one broke off at the waist. I thought there was one here missing the top of his head, but I don't see him now. I do have more figures. I'm not sure if I'm going to share them with you, though. Where did I put them? Are they over here? Oh, I don't see them now. I have another bag of, they're not Timpo, they're Hong Kong. Maybe it's, yeah, here it is. That's a painting by Charles Schwevogel. I was going to put that behind there, but it kept falling over, so I had to move it. I'm going to share this with you guys next. I don't know where the cowboys are. I guess I haven't found them yet, but this is Hong Kong ripoffs of Timpo, and they look pretty good, I think. Like there's one. Can you see him? He looks just like a Timpo. But I bought 50 of them for like $30 or something, so I thought that was a pretty good deal. Okay, guys, that's all I've got for you this time. Thank you for joining the Iggy Army and getting Iggy with it. This is Fort Cheyenne by Superior Toys, showcased with Timpo 7th Cavalry and Plains Indians. Thank you for taking time out to watch my video. I appreciate you guys doing that. Leave a comment. I love hearing about your collections. One fella said that he has a room with bins filled with stuff, with HO trains and race cars and toy soldiers. And I God, I wish I could go over to that guy's house. That would be fun looking at all that stuff. My friend Carl, of course, he has a ton of stuff. And my friend Doug, who I mention frequently, he has double what I've showed you so far. It's amazing, but he's been selling off his collection recently, so I don't know where he stands now. But it's an enjoyable hobby, and if you like history, it's even more fun. Uh, Usually, if you like history, you would not be adverse to appreciating these, if not appreciating and collecting. That's all I've got for you this time. I want to thank you for coming along. Why don't we go to the Chuck Wagon at Roy Rogers Ranch? And did you know? I don't know if I told you this or not. I met Dale Evans when I was a little boy, and the Roy Rogers show, it was canceled when I was a baby. They canceled the show in 1957, but it was in reruns all the time, even into the early 60s, and I used to watch it. Well, my mom and dad took us to a little tiny Chinese restaurant in Woodland Hills, or was it Reseda? Maybe it was the town next to Woodland Hills. But at any rate, they're at a table with all these people sitting there wearing sunglasses indoors. Don't look at us. We're not conspicuous. We're just movie stars. Anyway, she was there, and my mom said, "Do you want to meet her?" And I was a very shy little kid, very timid and shy. And we walked up, and my mom was holding my hand, and she said, "Hello, um, Miss Evans. My son wanted to meet you." And she said, "Go ahead, Richie, say hello." And I looked at her and I said, "I like Roy better." And everyone at the table laughed, but my mom was mortified because she took me over there just for me to insult Dale Evans. Now, years and years later, I worked at J.C. Penney in Victorville, California. I think that's gone now too. Um, Gail Evans used to come into our store, and I saw her several times in our store. I didn't speak with her. I was afraid that I might mention that story and have her get upset or mad at me or something. Or she might have laughed. I don't know. Well, that's all I got. So we'll say hello to Trigger and Bandit, and have some beans and bacon. That sounds delicious. Maybe some biscuits too. Oh, for my English friends, biscuits are not cookies here. They're like bread rolls. Should I just say goodbye instead of going through a lengthy... Oh, yeah, let's just say goodbye.